You can find me at on Twitter at Swift Eves, just SWIFTEVES. Feel free to ask any questions you want. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about HealthKit. And if you're anything like me, when you first heard about HealthKit, it sounded very intimidating, and you thought to yourself, "How could I even remotely start on that?" Don't think that. If you are also like me, you probably have bouts of imposter syndrome with things like that. Over the years, though, I've learned with imposter syndrome, the best thing to do is just literally pretend you're an imposter. Just pretend you're a spy or a secret agent. You know that you were hired to work, do the code base and such. It makes it a little more fun. That may not be everyone's solution, but that's what I like to do. And so today we're going to be secret agents with HealthKit, and we're going to explore how to make a running app on the Apple Watch using Simple HealthKit and Swift UI. So we're going to start this from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and open Xcode. Uh-oh, don't look at this. This is a spoiler alert. Okay, so we're going to go ahead
You
and
need to share your screen. We can't
oh,
see it yet.
that's embarrassing. All right, here we go with our lovely Zoom console. All right, so don't look at that. That's the end product. That's my security blanket in case I mess with anyone's time here. So we're going to open Xcode and we're going to start a new project. And because in Xcode 12 we can just make watch apps by themselves, we're going to do that right now. So go ahead, and if you're following along, just pick under Watch OS, create a watch app. And then what I'm going to do today is just simply call our project WHCM, Women Who Code Mobile Health Kit. And then we're not going to include notifications. You can do notifications for stuff like this. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it from your Apple Watch. Sometimes it gets really snarky and tells you, hey, you could walk like 500 miles and close your move ring today. But we're not in that business. Okay, and so just to make sure, we're going to use the Swift UI interface, the Swift UI app lifecycle, and Swift. We'd have a hard time using Objective-C, but if you figure it out, I'd love to see it. Name it whatever you want. And yeah, it says my name is Matthew Eves. My name is technically Matthew Adrian Eves, but I go by Adrian. But you know how the App Store is. They're very, very specific. So we're going to save it wherever you want. I'm going to save this to my desktop because I have a million things in my root folder. You can create a Git repository if you want to. I just recommend not doing it right now because it's not really the point. Okay, and so without further ado, we're going to create our project. Okay. Now, if you've used Swift UI before, you may have heard this phrase or this little acronym MVVM. That stands for Model View View Model. And it's a separation of concerns where you have your model, like your objects, like if the common one I think of is like animal, where you have like data relating to animals, and you have your view, which is like what your preview pops up, and then you have your view model, which is where all the business logic gets done. Now, if you're like me when you started Swift UI, you put everything in your view, which is kind of bad business depending most people who you ask. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create a file called Health Manager and get all of our HealthKit business concerns in there. So that way the two views that we end up making don't really have to know a whole lot about what's going on. Okay, so first things first though, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We're gonna go to our target here and we're gonna go to signing and capabilities. It's really small on my screen right now, and I'm sorry about that, but it's the second option. It's right after general. If you're, and you need to go to I'm gonna pull this out. You need to make sure it's the WatchKit extension that you're working on. You don't have to worry about these. Okay, and so then you're gonna click on signing and capabilities, and you're gonna add a capability, which, surprise, surprise, is HealthKit. We have to tell Xcode what we're doing. We have to have the right permissions for our for HealthKit because we're using sensitive user data. Speaking of permissions, there is a thing in our files that handles all sorts of permissions. You may know it. It's called the plist. So we're going to go ahead and add two properties to our info.plist in our extension kit. And because without it, it will crash. And you'll see in the console, it will tell you that something happened with HealthKit. So we're going to add a new row. Let's see. Health. Let's see. Oh, it's not really being helpful, is it? Oh, privacy. All right, so we're going to do privacy health share usage description. So basically, we're giving it the permission to read our health data. And that takes a string value. So we'll just say, we need to be able to read your health data. Now, if you try to submit that to the App Store, they'll probably nab you on not being specific enough. But because this is a purely academic project, we're going to get away with it. All right, so that's one part of the puzzle. The second one is we need to add, again, privacy, health, update usage description. That's a fancy way of saying we're going to have permission to write to the health store. So again, we'll update our value to update your health. Uh-oh, I spotted a typo. There we go. Oh, that was a worse typo. All right, so we have our two plist values and we have it set up in our target. So what we're going to do is, just for good measure, we're going to save our plist. Then finally, we're going to get to the good stuff. So let's start by getting into what HealthKit is. So we're going to create a new file. I know that still says hello world, mildly unsatisfying, because we want it to say health data. We want it to show what we're doing. We want it to show our runs, but we'll get there. We're going to abstract the hard part first. And I say the hard part because it's only relative. Because once you go through this once, you'd be surprised how you can adapt it to anything else. You could adapt it to a swimming app pretty quickly. And I just want to say right now, so I don't forget, if you are on Twitter or anything and you are excited about your health stuff, I would love to see it. I don't ever feel like it's not like good enough or whatever, because that's dumb. Like I just made like running and swimming apps, just, test them out and such. Anything you make is cool, and the flavor you add to it is really special. So let's go ahead and start with our handy dandy Swift file. And so what we're going to make here is the VM part of our MVVM that we discussed earlier. And we're going to call it Health Manager. And we're going to make sure it's attached to our WatchKit extension. I talk about MVVM a couple times here, and the secret is really I'm mentioning it more so for my own benefit because I forget about it, and I'm trying to make better habits for 2021. All right, so we have a nice empty blank slate. So our first logical step, as you can imagine, would be to import HealthKit. Ta-da! Now we have all those HealthKit methods available to us. So we're going to create a class, and you'll see why it's a class and not a struct later on. It's not a huge detail, but I would like to just share with you. And we're going to call it Health Manager. And it's going to inherit from nothing and conform to no protocols yet. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to create an enum that holds the states of our workout. So, like so. So we're going to have it a workout state enum, and the cases it's going to have are inactive, active, and paused. Because if you think about it, these represent the different states that your watch will be reflecting for your workout. When your workout's inactive, you haven't started a workout or you're done with your workout. It's not actively collecting your health data and therefore not using sensors and such that it doesn't need. When your workout is active, you're actually running or swimming or biking or playing water polo, whatever it is that you want to do. And when it is paused, the activity is paused, but it's kind of like a more soft core inactive state. you're still in the workout, but it's just taking like a breather. It'll still collect your heart rate and such. Okay, I'm sorry for my sniffles. It's just that time of year. Okay, so now we're going to create one of the biggest cornerstones of HealthKit, and I'm really happy to say it doesn't take much effort at all. So we're going to start here. So these are very important things. Okay, so your health store is your gateway into HealthKit. Okay, whenever you read or write to HealthKit, you're asking a health store to do something. I want you to think of your health store like a gym. It has all the machines and everything, all the staff. It's where you go to do health. It's where you know what you're doing, and then you can leave it. But you can also think back to what you did at the gym. And I know during the pandemic, a lot of us are like, the gym, what? You could just literally talk about your basement where you keep your treadmill or something. I don't know. And then we're going to move to what's called our workout session. And so I want you to think of workout session and workout builder like this. I love to use analogies when I describe things. So your workout session, I want you to think of like a gym manager. What they're going to do is make sure that the gym has all the resources that you need to perform something, and it's going to make sure you get the right coach for the right job. So it handles all of like, I don't want to say business logic because that's kind of the whole point of this file, but it handles the data. It's like an admin for the gym. Whereas the workout builder is like the coach. It handles all the metrics of what's going on in your workout, when to start, when to stop, and it reports everything back to the workout session, aka the manager. And so you're going to schedule your activities with the workout session. And if the activity exists, our admin's going to find a coach for the job. And then last but not least, in this little thing we created, we're going to go ahead and just set our activity to an HK workout activity type of running. You can make this as a bunch of different things if you want. Like, see if you put down it, like we've got American football, archery, Australian football, basketball, bowling, bar, cricket, cross training. Let's see, what's one of the most random ones? Fishing. Wow. I want to get my, I'm going to challenge myself one of these days. And I don't even like fishing, to get all of my rings done by fishing. Okay, but enough of that. I'm just rambling now. So after we have the basics of our health store and we've hired our admin and our coach, we're going to move on. And we're going to go ahead, oh, my voice just cracked. And we're going to go ahead and create a start function, because what better way to get into activities than to start it? So we're going to store create. Okay, and so I just make these macros just so that way I don't waste any of your time, because it's precious to me. So what we've got here in our start function is we've got a set of HK sample types. A sample type is a metric that you're collecting. It could be beats per minute for your heart. It could be the miles ran. It could be the calories done. Because we only have limited time today, we're just going to take these HK sample types at face value, but Apple's documentation holds a lot more about these sample types. And I also want to mention that the converse of these are quality care. Oh, wow, it escapes me. It'll come back. I'm sorry. HK qualitative types, I believe. Don't quote me on that though. But basically, those are more subjective things, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how are you feeling with pain? You know, like some people's 7 may be someone else's 4, or even like a 10. But for HK samples like these are actually concrete values. These can be represented just by discrete numerics. Like your heart rate is going to be measured in a system that works from person to person. And that's really why HealthKit seems so complicated, is because people are complicated. All of our healths are different. And so once we get past that initial conception that HealthKit's just wild, it becomes a lot simpler to look at. And so what we are going to collect in our set here is we're going to collect the workout type. We're going to get our heart rate, and these are optionals, and these are going to be force unwrapped because we know they exist for sure. We're not doing anything custom or anything strange. So we're going to get heart rate, active energy burned, and the distance walking and running. And I want to say about distance walking running is very cool, because a lot of times, especially when I run, I am not great at mental fortitude. and I will just walk. And then I'll say, oh, come on, Adrian, run that last mile, and I'll do it. And it's great because if you were to stop running to walk and have your activity stop, that'd be really frustrating, wouldn't it? And so it lumps those two into a nice category. So that way you can continue to collect things properly and it doesn't shut down on you, which again would be pretty bad. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to ask our health store, we're going to request authorization if we can share the sample types that we've made and if we can read the sample types that we've made. We're going to see where we've been and update where we go. And inside of our nice little closure here, we're going to have success or an error. If we're successful, we're going to begin our workout. And because of the scope and timing of this, we're not going to define an error case, though I recommend you do. It's good practice. Okay, so let's see. All right, stop it. Okay, so we're going, whoops, that does not need to be nested at all. That was a mistake. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now start to make our begin workout function that gets called in here. Okay, and we're going to start by configuring our activity. So we're just going to go ahead and make this config variable a type of, an instantiation of HK workout configuration to configure it, which will pass to our health items later. And we're just going to tell it our activity type is the activity type. I just pointed at my screen like you could all see it. It's an activity type of the one we defined up here. And then we're going to give it a location type of outdoor. You can do a bunch of things for these location types, and you can do like switch cases if you want, but you can do indoor, outdoor, or unknown. We're going to do outdoor because it's the easiest to worry about, and you don't have to have like any extra special equipment to get it super accurate for a treadmill. Because I know Zwift running makes those little pods for your shoes to help you calculate, and we're trying to make something that we can make on a budget. Okay, so after we get our config details, we're going to do this do catch block. And this is where our errors are. And this is where we're going to try our statements because these statements can fail, especially because remember how I mentioned that in our analogy that the gym manager could have problems finding a class or a coach for something that doesn't exist. If that happens here, we'll catch it and handle it accordingly. So we're going to start with our workout session. Okay, our workout session being the manager. So we're going to do a try statement here where we're going to create a session using our health store that we defined and the configuration that we made up here. And if that works, we're going to continue on our merry little way to start giving our coach stuff to do. So we'll take that workout session and we're going to give it the proper workout builder with this function here. I could go into detail a little more about that, but again, timing. And I'm sorry I keep saying that. There's just so far you can go with HealthKit, and there's a lot of great docs and resources out there. And we're going to set our data source for our workout builder as an HK live workout data source, taking our health store and again, our config. So we'll set up our coach, we'll set up our gym manager, and if all that goes well, we'll be able to continue. Otherwise, we would have to write something inside of our catch block. Now here's where things start to get a little interesting and reminiscent of this technology called UIKit. You may have heard of it. We're going to try to set these delegates to be themselves, but oh no, what's happening here? It's mad at us, and the reason it's mad at us is because we're not conforming to these protocols. So the first thing I'm going to do here is we're going to make this inherit from NS object, the basically mother object that everything inherits from. And then we're going to make it observable object. We're going to make it conform to observable object, and you'll see why in a little bit. And then we're going to, instead of typing all of these out, we're going to press these and we're going to add a conformance to HK workout session delegate at the top. Let's see if it added. Oh, that looks gross. And then we're going to do this one down here as well for HK Live Workout Builder Delegate. We're basically, if you have any experience with UIKit, you may have heard of delegates. And if you don't, it's not a big deal. All the delegate is really doing is saying, hey, I nominate you to handle this task. And so we're basically saying that our workout session and our workout builder are responsible for themselves. We're not giving their work to anybody else. They don't get interns. And so now that we actually have those conformances listed, it's going to yell at us again, as Xcode does. And it's going to want us to add some protocol stubs, which we are about to do by pressing the fix button. And then it's going to yell at us one more time because the other conformance wants one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to copy all of these, or I'm going to use the cut command because I've gotten better at that. And I'm going to paste this at the bottom because I like for like my variables to be at the top and my functions to be at the bottom. That's just a personal organization thing. You don't have to do that. You can leave them at the top if you want. You can even scatter them if you really want to. I don't really recommend that, but hey, this is, as I say, your party. So we have 4 of these functions that are required for these 2 little lines of code to be able to work. We're going to talk about them. There's 2 that I'm just going to say we don't care about. You can in larger scale projects. The ones we don't care about are there's did collect. So this is collecting events like if you run a lap or something, or if you just other pieces and events that you may encounter while running. We're not going to care so much about that because all we're going to do in this app is just collect the distance, calories, and heart rate. There are no objectives that the app is going to set to perform. But if you want to take this app and expand it into anything, like I have track companion, this is where you would do that. So I'm just going to write a really fancy comment and say, I don't care about that one. Another thing, and I'm going to go to the other one. So this is going to handle the errors that get thrown in a workout. Again, not a great idea, but we don't care about this one in the scope of this project, just because time. All right, so now there's 2 left that we actually care about. There's this did change to state function, which handles our changing states in our workouts, kind of like the enum that we described at the top of the file. I need to stop pointing, like you guys aren't behind me. And then we're going to have did collect data of for our workout builder. And this is where the real magic happens. This is where you collect all that good stuff for your HealthKit work. And so it's great because we've satisfied all of the requirements for the delegates. These guys finally know how to work for themselves. We really had to educate them very severely. They were like tech bros that brag, but really we had to swoop in and save the day. So don't be a workout session delegate tech bro. And then, so I'm just rambling again. We're going to work on finishing the workout session. And then here's what's gonna, okay. So this will be made, wait a second. Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, so we're going to start our activity with today's date right now in here, once everything's good to go. And then we're going to start collecting with, again, today's date with a success or an error. And what we're going to do is one of our fancy guard statements. So if we're successful, we'll continue. Otherwise, we'll jump right out of here. And you may see that it's mad about this right now because I'm going to add a couple properties to this file that we can mess with. And if you've ever done anything in Swift UI, you'll recognize them. So these property wrappers, like published, are kind of like those ones you may have heard of, state, where all we're telling this health manager to do is observe for changes in these 4 values, which is our workout state, our energy burn, our total distance, and our last heart rate. Because what we can do with that, and because it conforms to observable object, our UI will watch for changes in these files, and when they happen, it'll write them as SwiftUI does with its quick struct shuffle that happens so fast we can't even see it. So we made a lot of listening functionality that was wild in WatchKit a lot simpler because of the nature of SwiftUI. And so I encourage you to use SwiftUI a lot for HealthKit, especially as you start out, because it's a lot more straightforward because of this kind of activity right here. Okay, so now that's a lot happier. And we're going to perform this on the main thread because the golden rule of the background threading is any work done for the UI should be done on the main thread. Otherwise, you get into some weird territory. So we're going to avoid that by switching our state to active on this main thread. And I also want to iterate here that if you would like to look at this code afterwards, I'm going to publish this on GitHub. And so I'll share that with you. Okay, so moving on. Just getting a little excited there. We're going to handle our state switching. I know we want to get in this function really bad and just see what makes HealthKit go, but just work with me here. Okay. That's awkward. So again, here's what we're doing, and we're doing it inside of the main thread because of that golden rule. So we're going to change our state, and HealthKit has its own states, and it's going to be, if we're running, we're going to set our state that we made in our enum to active. If it's pause, we're going to set our own state that we made to pause. And if it's ended, we're going to call our own save function, which doesn't exist yet. I know it's yelling at us, but that's on purpose. It's by design, I promise. And then otherwise, if neither of these things happen, we're going to jump out of this because it's a state that we don't want to account for. So let's jump in here and start to handle our data. Wow, I just threw a lot in there. It looks crazy. Oh my goodness. I promise you, a lot of it's repetitive. And if you can get one line, you'll get like the other two just fine. I promise. So let's break it down bit by bit what we're doing here. We're starting with the for loop, okay? So as you can see, we're collecting types of HK sample type, which, as you recall from earlier, that's what we defined for reading and updating our health store. So we're going to look at all of the types we've got in there and glance at each one. Okay, so a for loop, nothing super terrifying. We know that. Let's jump in and see what's inside. We've got 2 guard statements. The first one is we're going to see if we're dealing with a quantity type, which again, I told you about the HK quantity types collecting discrete metrics. So all we're doing here is we're just going to check that this type that we're looking at is a quantity type. It's something that's discrete and not subjective. Otherwise, we don't want it in our data set. That's not to say that data is not valuable, but we just don't care about it in this context right now. And if it's not a quantity type, then we're going to use this continue keyword and restart our loop again without committing anything. We're saying done, don't need it, let's move on. And then we're going to also check, now that we have this quantity type, and assuming it doesn't get that guard statement wrong, we're going to check in our workout builder statistics for this quantity type. And if it can find it, it's going to set it. Otherwise, it's going to do what we did in the last line and start the loop over. And statistics, that's what holds all of the information that we want. This is the king or the queen of HealthKit. It's much more fun to say something's a queen of something than it is to say something's a king, because kings have a pretty bad history of being like kind of horrible. But I can't really think of a whole lot of queens that were terrible. They usually have like a solid reputation for being rock stars. Like look at the Queen of England. She's kind of awesome and immortal. anyways, that's just me being a nerd. So again, main thread stuff right here. We've seen this. This is the third time we're seeing this now. It's not so new if we haven't seen it before. And so as you can guess, we're about to do some work that's going to affect our UI. If you guess that, you're totally right. And if not, that's okay. This is weird stuff. So we're going to make a switch statement for our statistics quantity type. And so for each of these cases, we're going to have a quantity type for heart rate, for active energy burned or your calories, and then the default, because I find it a little more verbose and I don't think of it off the top of my head, this is going to collect the distance. My dogs see somebody at the window, so if they bark, I'm sorry. I cannot control them to that fine of a level, but I will make sure that we're able to hear. So let's start with our first case. So we're going to check if the HK quantity type for heart rate. If we get a heart rate statistic, we're going to set this heart rate value as our HK unit dot count. And so what HK units do? It's really nice. Oh, thanks. I got this. No, but thank you though. That was my brother-in-law. He's a really nice guy. He was trying to help me with microphone woes. What's really nice is if you're not great at math or you missed that day in like 5th grade, you're safe because HK unit does a lot of the unit conversions for you most of the time. And so in this case, we're getting an HK unit of count divided by minute. So this unit that we've defined is getting our beats per minute. And so all we're going to do is we're going to set our self.last heart rate, which we defined as one of our published properties. We're going to set it to the most recent quantity that we collect with a double value of our heart rate unit. And if you notice, we're doing some optional chaining here because it may not be able to get it. Otherwise, we're going to return 0. And because that we're using something called nil coalescing. We'll want something to be represented all the time. And I think most people realize that if they see a 0 on their heart rate monitor, they're not going to think that they're seriously flatlining. They're going to know something's wrong with the app, and they're not actually a vampire. So again, this last heart rate is one of our published properties. So as soon as that gets changed, that published value is going to say, hey, we got a new value, and the UI is going to redraw itself. So that's awesome. Look at all that work that we did without actually having to do much of any work. So the next case we've got is, again, another quantity type for active energy burned, okay? And we're going to let our value be the sum quantity because it gets little bits of calories at a time. We're going to get the sum quantity of these for a value of kilocalorie. So a fun fact, when you say I burned X calories, you actually mean to say I burned X kilocalories. I don't know who made that convention, but it was before my time, so we literally have no say. And then again, we're going to nil coalesce for 0. And if you're like me and you've ever used kind of an awkward running app and you've run like for half a mile and you see that you're burning 0 calories, you're going to know something's up and quite possibly be a little mad about it. And then we're going to set, all we're going to do then is set our total energy burn to that value. And then again, publish property, boom, notify the UI. And then for our default case, which is our distance, we're just going to do our statistics sum quantity with a double value for mile. You can do meter if you want, if you're not from the United States, because we just do everything weird here, I guess. So I've been told. But you will have to do multiplication and division to get the base units for meter. But luckily, everything's base 10, so it's not too terrible. I'm going to change it back to miles because it's my comfort zone. Although, fun fact, if you record your runs in kilometers, you feel like more of a superhero because you get the numbers to climb up faster and you do more. It's just a fun little running trick. Anyways, that's just me. And so we're going to go ahead and if that works with our optional chaining and whatnot, we're going to write our value to total distance. Again, it's another sum quantity. So it's going to collect all the chunks of distance that it reads at a time, or it's going to return 0, in which case we'll know after a while that something's not right. But this should definitely work. I'm like 99.9% sure it works. It has not failed me yet because I literally tested this when I first came up with this. I ran up and down the street like a weirdo with my flip-flops on. I was wearing my mask too. Okay, so that's the hard part of HealthKit right here. And as you can see, the only really crazy part is writing our case and getting stuff like our units or our measurements. And then updating values, that's something we've done before, right? The left side of the equal sign gets what's assigned to it, no brainer. So now we're going to create a couple of helper functions because we're going to go switch gears and think about that state changing thing that we made. And so just to make life a little easier for us, we're going to create these little helper functions that are going to tell the workout session to pause, resume, or end. And they're like this. And I'll just settle this for a second if you're coding along. This is not absolutely necessary. This is just done for convenience in writing in different parts. A little bit of convenience will sometimes go a long way. And yeah, it's just a comfort zone kind of thing, a little security blanket, if you will. So I'm going to wait like 10 seconds before I go to the last part of our HealthKit file. Wow, can you believe it? We're almost done with this VM, this view model that we've made. It feels like it's been forever, but this is a really good skeleton that you can use for almost any HealthKit project that collects measurements like these. It's not great for something like sleep collection or, like the subjective units, but you can do it for like swimming, American archery, whatever. Actually, I don't know if you can do it for American archery. I've never made an app for that, so I'm not the expert there. And I'm not the expert on HealthKit either. I just like it and use it, and I just want you to know that we're all in the same boat here. I'm just anyone who's watching, it's me, a friend, helping you, all my other friends. Okay, so let's finish this up. Let's give ourselves a big old pat on the back in a second. We're going to make that error line that we had earlier satisfied by creating our save function. And we're going to mark it as private because we don't want anything else to be able to call it except this file or this class, just because separation of concerns, you don't want to accidentally do it and screw up your workouts. So we're going to take our workout builder and we're going to end collection. We're going to stop collecting our data starting with right now, because instantiating a data object as is just collects the time right now. And then we're going to have a closure for success or an error. And we're going to do our workout builder, finish workout. We're not going to do anything with the success and error right now, just because we're not worried about error handling in this project. And we're going to finish our workout. We're going to call finish workout on our workout builder and pass it. We're going to have a workout or an error. And we're going to set the workout to inactive on the main thread. Again, so realize we do have these two closure arguments for errors that you can do stuff with, but we're choosing not to right now, just for the sake of learning HealthKit. Okay, so all that's happening here is we're just telling everything to stop. We're saying, okay, we're done. The run's done. Let's get it taken care of. And so when we finish the workout, it's going to write it to our health store. We don't have to do anything wild to do that, which is really nice because in WatchKit, you did have to do a lot of that stuff. You had to do a lot of intense querying, and this would have been a lot longer of a presentation. So let's look at our file top and down, make sure nothing's yelling at us. It's a really good habit to do. And nothing is. So we're going to go ahead and save it. And that's our view model for our HealthKit. So let's march over into Content View and get back to Swift UI, what may be familiar to us. So we're going to import HealthKit so we do not forget. And then we're going to create an interesting variable. We're going to use the state object wrapper. Let's see, health manager. Health manager. And so you may not have seen state object yet. It works very similarly to state and those, all we're telling it to do with state object is that our content view owns this object, and we're going to change it independent of the Swift UI lifecycle. So if we made it state, the Swift UI lifecycle, aka the way things are drawn, and when things end and appear, will not have any bearing on our health data. So we're dodging a bullet right there. And then we're going to, inside of the body, we're going to delete this, and we're going to create a VStack. And then, so I want to say that our VStack is just a vertical stack of stuff. For anyone who hasn't seen Swift UI, I just organized everything from top to bottom. And so we've got a little bit of logic in here. I'm going to explain it, don't worry. So we're going to see if our health manager state is inactive. And so if our health manager state is inactive, we're going to show another VStack on the inside that's holding our text for the app. It's going to say runner bean. I named this after a character from a book that I liked to read as a kid. And we're going to just give it one button that says start outdoor workout. And inside of the button's closure, we're going to do a guard statement, which again is really fancy for checking if something works, otherwise zipping out of that function. We're going to do, I'm going to stretch this over a little bit so we can see it a little better. We're going to do HK health store. We're going to call this on a health store. Is health data available? And this does a lot of work for us, as you'll see when we run the app. What this does is it presents, if this is your first time using the app, it's going to present all of those permissions that you might have seen before, like Wonder Run wants to collect your running, your toothbrush habits and whatever, and you can choose which ones you add. Most people do all of them, but in good HealthKit design, you will make sure that if people only do some parts of their activity, you can handle that. You don't want to try a one size fits all approach for HealthKit, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of HealthKit and everyone else having different health makeups. So if our health data is available, it's going to first query to see and like do that little pop-up that asks us for permissions. And if we've set, we can say yes or no to it. And then subsequent times, it's going to remember if that yes or no was granted. And if it's yes ever, it's going to pop into our health manager and start. If it's no, if we didn't grant permission to it, it's not going to do anything right now. We don't have any errors set up for it. Okay. So let's see what happens if we run this in the sim. Let's see, it's thinking about it. Oh, the Zoom screen's kind of blocking me here. It's building it. Ooh, do I have questions? I don't know. It won't let me read them.
Yeah, it's not popping.
Oh, okay. So you might have mentioned this, but what other options does HealthKit provide beside the workout functions? That is a great question. So there's the HK sample type that I described that collects the discrete workouts. I think there's HK quantity types. No, they're not called quantity types. They're called, shoot, it's escaping my tongue. There's an opposite to it, and I might have to look it up after this, but it can collect a lot of things. Like, for instance, my wife relies on this is I probably shouldn't have said that, but there's the cycle tracking that it does, and it can collect psychological data. It can collect mindful minutes. It can collect data for like how your skin is. There's really, and each year we get more and more added to it. You can even collect toothbrushing data. I have an app that does that because I got the little Quip toothbrush. If you could pretty much, if you can think of it, HealthKit is probably all. How does automated testing work in HealthKit? I do not really, that is kind of outside of my scope. I haven't done a whole lot of automated testing in HealthKit as of right now, and I'm sorry. I know that's mildly disappointing, but I can continue to look into that and learn more. And of course, if you learn about it, I would love to hear about it because I do love testing. And can these workout functions run in an emulator? Yes, they can. It's great, and we're going to see it in a little bit. It was a surprise, but you ruined the surprise, but that's okay. Let's see if the simulator's open. Did it open? It says it's running. There it is. Whoops. Oh, Zoom's just obscuring it. All right, so we're gonna see what happens if we press our button. Let's see, it should let us do it. Okay, so yeah, perfect. So our plist works right. I put it in the right spot. Last time I did a talk like this, I put it in the wrong plist and I had it crash in front of everybody. And so we can test the simulator on the watch. It's gonna say this would love to check for and update your health data. And so we're gonna review what it wants. And it says allow write access. Would like permission to write the following health data. We can do it. We're going to do the all switch, but I'm going to read what we've got. Active energy, walking and running distance, and workouts, and our heart rate. And here's our little explanation string. We need to be able to update your health data. Wow. And then it's going to do the same thing for read access, the same little blurb here. We're going to do all of them. And then, yeah, there's the workout data, and there's the heart rate. And there's our string again. And then we're going to say done. And it doesn't do anything after that yet. We have one final step to do. So here we go. We're going to create a Swift UI view, and we're going to call it workout view. And as you can imagine, it's going to do exactly what it says. It's going to hold our workout view. That's what we're going to jump to. So let's get rid of this text here. So we'll workout view. Whoops, not supposed to do that there. We'll leave our text in there for a second. All right, so I just added a lot of things in here, not to worry. And why is it yelling? Oh, it's gonna yell at us we'll satisfy the preview in a little bit. Who cares right now? We're gonna make another workout state, active pause, to control the UI. So at this point, we've talked about 3 different like states. The first one was to manage our own workout stuff. The second one was for what HealthKit has. And the third one is just to control this UI. And so we're going to create a state variable called workout state, set it to active. It will be tied to this Swift UI cycle, so we don't need to worry about state object. Just state will do. And then we're going to make our observed object our health manager. And we're not instantiating it here because we're going to make it a parameter that we pass. And so in our content view, we will basically take our workout view and pass that health manager object that we created. And so now I'm going to satisfy the preview and just create an instance of health manager. Boom. Okay. So one thing that I love that we can do in Swift is computed properties, because it makes our life a lot easier in some cases. And so all I'm doing here with these variables, this distance quantity, this calorie quantity, this heart rate quantity, is that I'm formatting them to be strings of how I want them to look on the screen. Okay, so we're going to start with our distance quantity. So we're going to set our miles to our health manager total distance. Okay, simple enough. Then we're going to create a distance string from that with our format right here. Now, so if you've ever used the Nike running app, one thing that I like that it does is if you're under 10 miles, it will use 2 decimal places. So it will say like 1.88 miles. But if you go over 10 miles, it drops that it drops 1 decimal place, so it can still hold the same amount of space. So it would say like 10.2 miles. So that's what we're doing here. If our miles amount is greater than 10, we're going to override our distance string with just 1 decimal point. And this is some weird like C style formatting string right here. This is not like common sense. You wouldn't just think, oh yeah, %.2f, got it. That's easy. Like that's something I had to look up, and then like, don't worry about it. It's not super common sense. And then after we're done, we're going to return our distance string to satisfy setting this value. Similarly, we're going to do our calorie quantity. I don't know if anyone who likes to see that they've burned half of a calorie or a quarter of a calorie. So we're going to take our value and return it with no decimal places. And we're just going to return this health manager total energy burned value here, and we're going to cast it as a string. Similarly, all we're going to do is just take our heart rate value, because it already gets in beats per minute. We're going to cast it as an integer, and we're going to then cast that as a string. You may say that's not super accurate because of the integer cast, and that's fine. There are other ways to make it increasingly more accurate, but this is just a simple, straightforward way to do it. So we've created our state property, we've created our observed object property, and we've created our computed values. Now all that's left to do is dress up our UI for our workout view. So let's go in here, and now we're going to get rid of text because I jumped the gun earlier, and we're going to set up what I call statistic view. Wait, actually, I jumped the gun again. I'm sorry for all this gun jumping that I'm doing. Oh, wow. Okay. Chill out notifications. Where's the, okay, whatever. You can see that I'm just bad at checking my notifications. It's fine. All right. So we got our statistics view, and we're almost done here. I'm sorry, I haven't been able to check the clock, and I'm sorry if I'm taking a lot of time here. We're going to create a modular little view here that we can use inside of this main view. This is a technique that a lot of people do in Swift UI, where you create your own custom view, and we're going to do it here. So we're going to create a statistic view of type view, give it a quantity string and a unit string, and then inside of its body, which is some view, we're going to create a VStack that has a text with string interpolation quantity. We're going to give it a font of title 2 and a font weight of bold. And then we're going to make another text object, string interpolation unit. We're going to uppercase that. Again, I'm stealing out of Nike's playbook. And we're going to give it a caption font with a light font. So we're going to have bold numbers and lighter text. Okay. So then all we have to do is pop in here, and now finally, no more gun jumping. I promise this is the right time for this. We're going to create a VStack, and we're going to do such. Okay, so all we're doing in here is we've created a VStack to organize things vertically. And inside of that VStack, we have an HStack, which organizes things horizontally. Now I've put spacers above and below it so that way it centers the content on the screen. Spacers are a really convenient way to organize layouts in Swift UI and center things. If you get creative with spacers, you can make really good layouts. And it's like, look how simple the implementation is, just the word spacer. Okay, so inside of our HStack, we're going to use 3 of these statistic views that we made, okay? So the first one is our quantity, heart rate quantity, units beat per minute. And we're going to make that red because red is color often associated with heart rate. Another spacer to separate these out evenly. Statistic view with calorie quantity, unit, just CAL for cal. And we're going to make that yellow just because I didn't really think of a better color. And then another spacer, another statistic view, distance quantity with units mile. And if you decided to do meters or kilometers or whatever, you would write that here. And we're going to make that blue because I know that Apple uses blue for distance-oriented workouts. So that is this HStack. Now we're going to create our final element for this, and we're going to create buttons. And these are conditional. A lot of work here, but most of it's just like layout and such. So if our workout state is active, then we're going to show a pause button because you're running and you want to pause it. You don't want to be able to end your workout while you're running it. Like, good rule of thumb, because that'd be very frustrating if you just like went to like, not everyone has like the series 5 or 6 where where it's always on. And so it would be terrible if you like touched it and accidentally closed it. That would make a lot of people mad and you would have a lot of hate mail about it. So we're going to make a pause button that shows when the state is active. And so all we're going to do is it's going to tell our health manager to pause, one of those helper functions that we made earlier, and we're going to set that workout state to paused. So that way this UI knows what to do with that. And we're just going to give the button a little bit of dressing here, a background of color green. I like green buttons on the Apple Watch. I think they look pretty. A foreground color of black, so the text will appear black, and the corner radius of 10. Nice little curve there. Now, if the workout state is not active, we're going to include 2 buttons. One of them being a resume button. We're going to change the state to active so they can continue their workout. And we're going to set the state to active so the UI knows to, again, show that view with the pause button. And then we will also show an end button here, where all it's doing is it's telling us to end, because what it will do is it will tell its health manager, hey, we're done working out, and it will listen to that value and we'll switch back to our main UI before we even start our workout. And again, we're doing this is just a copy paste from this styling here. And so that is our workout view. Let's go ahead and implement it in our content view and call it a day. So in our else statement here, in our content view, we're going to create a workout view and health manager, health manager. All right, now let's give this a try. This is what y'all came to see. All right. Build. It's always a little heartbeat moment when you see like Xcode's compiling and you're waiting to see it succeed. All right, we already gave it permission, so it shouldn't ask again. So we're going to start, and watch this. The simulator, after a second, it will start to collect sample values for you. How nice is that? So we'll start to collect calories and miles and that jazz. Now watch what happens if you pause it. See if you can catch the weird thing. See, you may see it's still updating your heart rate. Why is it still updating your heart rate, you may ask? Well, you're still alive, so it's just reflecting that. And so when you press resume, it's going to start collecting again. It should, at least. Where are these values coming from? These values are the simulator is just flowing them in kind of arbitrarily. It's the Sim's way of helping you test your stuff. I don't know very much at all about how to modify how it does that, because I honestly don't know where it does that. That might be like an Apple obscured kind of thing, but I'm really glad that it does. And last year when you did swimming workouts, it would not collect anything, but now it does. And so that's really nice. So as you can see, we made a health app, we made a running app that collects this data. We can end it, and boom, we're back at our starting screen. So with this, you'll have everything you need to start building out a health app such as this. And if you look at Apple's documentation, you can even turn this into a swimming app. So thank you for listening to me ramble about HealthKit. I will make this available on GitHub, and I will contact whoever I need to for it. But thank you for sharing your time with me. I hope you had fun. I hope it was enjoyable. And I hope that you share with me what you make, because I'm really excited about it. And this has just been, I could not think of a better way to spend my Friday than with Women Who Code. And that's awesome. And I love it. And I could go on forever how I love it, but I think I've gone over time. So I'm going to call it quits here. But if you have any other questions, I would love to hear them. And even outside of this session, you can find me on Twitter, Swift Eves, and I will happily answer.
Erica threw out a question in the chat. I don't know if you're reading the chat, but one, you're getting lots of compliments, so you might want to check it out. And also, Erica asked, what do you like most about HealthKit?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know how to look at the chat.
It's in the bar. If you stop screen sharing, it will pop back up, and it'll be a little easier. The Zoom UI isn't great for that.
Do you think this is how our parents feel when they're like, how do we check our email and stuff?
I really dislike the Zoom UI when I'm sharing my screen. It's really hard to find the buttons.
Okay. All right. So the question, how would you, okay, so let me see. Oh, where's my cursor? Okay, so checking these. In Canada, you use meters. I like meters a lot. Doing math with meters was more fun to me. It made more sense. Miles to feet and everything. I don't know where they came up with like 1,760. That's a random number. You guys are so nice to me. I really appreciate it. I've only had the company of my dogs today, and they don't talk about me this way. See, what do I like most about HealthKit? I feel like what I like most about HealthKit is it gives me an opportunity to help people take control of the activity that they want to do. And because we as developers can create solutions, we can listen out for those who struggle with solutions that exist now. We can make something for them. And we can also make things that are fun, and we can make stuff for us too. Like getting into HealthKit got me into running actually. Uh, I haven't been running in a while because of the pandemic, and they canceled the Ironman races, which is good and safe, but I got a little bummed about it. And I pretty much went on like a month-long diet of almost exclusively ice cream. Uh, but yeah, I love what HealthKit lets you bring to other people. And how would you get started playing around with HealthKit? Well, something like this, like you're here today and that's good, but playing around with HealthKit, first I would, if you have an Apple Watch, I would see how, the workouts work and such and just kind of notice how they do things. And a fun fact is Apple does that 3, 2, 1 countdown when you start a workout because I like to call it the sleight of hand trick because while it's showing you that countdown view, it's firing up its sensors. And so it's giving you that view to kind of like get you excited about it. But really, they're like, okay, we've got 3 seconds to get this on. Let's go. So, yeah, so after you look at the workout stuff, you can try to emulate some of that stuff. Like, for instance, I did the red heart rate and the blue distance and the green buttons and such. I model those after like some of the workout stuff. And like it's a good building ground. And the Apple documentation, I wish they provided examples, but they do show you like how to use something, if that makes sense. So, like I would say any good apps with HealthKit that you would say did a good job of implementation with HealthKit. Okay, this is not a great answer, but I love the workout app that Apple did. I do like the Nike app too because they did a lot of work with getting your run data on uh on the maps and such, and like the trainers are like, "Good job, you're awesome," and you can do guided runs with those, which are amazing. The only thing is that Nike's app is a bit battery intensive, and I've heard some people say they collect a little bit too much data. That data part didn't necessarily bother me, but I did get I can't do my longer runs like at the end of the day without doing a super duper charge. So, but yeah, workouts. The Apple workouts are my favorite one, just because I just like it. It's just at home. It's there. It's like why I got the Apple Watch. But Nike is a good close second too. I feel like Nike does an outstanding job. It's a good one. Let's see if I can think of anything. Well, yeah, I use app. There's like a Swim Pro app that I used to use, but now, of course, since Series 2, I believe, you can swim with the workouts. Uh, let's see, anything else? I do wish more of if you've ever run like a 5K or a 10K or even like a half or a full marathon, there are those apps that like on your phone right now that like let you keep track of where you are in the race and people can send you stuff. I wish that more people made those for the Apple Watch because I did a half marathon, excuse me, in Birmingham, Alabama, and my wife and some of my family would send me like encouraging messages and I'd feel it in my pocket, but then at the end I got all the messages and I was like, shoot, these are awesome. So if someone's listening and wants to make something like that, I'll buy it. But anyway, so do we have any more questions?
I don't see anything else coming in. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank you so much for being here. You're really enjoyable to listen to, even if you can't hear me laughing. I laughed at all your jokes. I found this to be a really enjoyable presentation.
Oh, I'm glad I made someone laugh. My wife has
Oh,
to
you
deal with it
have the
24/7.
most important question just popped up. What is your favorite Taylor Swift song?
Oh, okay. So that's a published property right there. Let's see. So a few days ago, it definitely was a long story short. Fell down the rabbit hole. Long story short, it was a bet. You can't go wrong with Shake It Off. Out of the Woods is amazing. Dear Steven came on the other day, and I was like, I'm feeling it. Let's see. I love the one she does with, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of his name, Iver. Um, I love her two new albums because I just like that they have such a cool like rainy day music feel. And there was the cowboy song that she wrote, and she performed it with Marcus Mumford. And Mumford and Sons is actually my favorite band of all time. And I saw them live, and it was so cool. Marcus Mumford told me happy birthday, and I'll never forget it. But this is about Taylor Swift. It's not Marcus Swift. Let's see. I think I've covered the bases. I'm gonna feel bad if I forget something. Oh yeah, I'm forgetting it. Look What You Made Me Do is one of my all-time favorites. Not just because of the attitude, because in my life, I've had like everyone has like their struggles, and it's really neat to go back and say, "Look what you made me do. Look where I am now." And so that song's always had a special meaning to me. And let's see, from Blank Space is awesome. Uh, good suggestion, Vivian. Thank you for representing. Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I love The Archer from Lover. Uh, yeah, as you can see, I bounce around so much on all the Taylor vibes. Like, I don't think there's a song I don't like by her. I think the most criminally misrepresented listening period for me and Taylor is the Red album, and that has a lot of bangers on it, and I need to listen to it more. So that's where I stand on Taylor Swift. And if you want to talk about Taylor Swift with me, we can go for days. Like, I love to just think about what her songs mean. I listened to Cardigan before this talk, actually, so that was fun. So yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, where do you stand? You stand everywhere. You name them all.
yeah, no, so yeah, everyone's like, I like country Taylor, I like pop Taylor, I like indie Taylor. I'm like, give
There
me
are
them
no bad
all,
Taylors.
give me all of them. Yeah, I'm like, I just love whatever she does. I'm here for it. Taylor Swift, if you are somehow watching this right now, I love you and everything you do.
Oh, I think that's the perfect way to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you everyone for joining us. And we hope to see you again next week.
Thanks, everybody. This was fantastic. Love you guys.